Let's see. All right. So I learned quite a lot from the last. We online? Yes, we are. I learned quite a lot from the last time I was working on making the buildings, and I learned about something called. I need to share this. I learned about something called modular environment design. I suppose that is the name for it. Just gonna talk a little bit about how I signed in to watch me work. So yeah, modular environment design uh, involves making a modular kit, and it's like you're making like in The Sims. You know, you have stuff to choose from. You can make walls, you can make houses, however you like, from the same tools. That is what a modular kit would be like, except it's more specialized to your game because you can't reasonably make like every single possible variation. You make a few, and then either you or your level designer goes in, makes all these different buildings, and you get a lot of usage out of it without it looking too repetitive. Now, granted, you would have to make some incidental ones, which is some ones like specific to a thing that don't really go anywhere else, but just to make sure, you know. So I will show you what I've been working on in the meantime. And if you're hearing a dog, I'm sorry. Where are we looking at? Okay, so what I've been working on is creating a texture atlas. And what a texture atlas is, let me just open the file from here. It's basically one square that contains an example of each one of your materials. So I create each material here. I create each material here in Photoshop. Make sure it's tileable, sort that out, and all of these ones go onto my primary atlas diffuse map. The next map that I create is the ambient occlusion, which can also be used for height if you're using Unity. I can't say for Unreal. Ambient occlusion, your normal map, and your specular. Now, the easiest way I found of doing these textures is using a site called Sipitry. It's called Normal Map Online, but the link, just Google for that Normal Map Online, and you put in an image that's to serve. You can actually either put in an image that's to serve as a height map, or you can put in a picture that's to be tiled. Right? And when you do that, it creates a normal displacement, ambient occlusion, and specular for you. I usually take off the displacement because displacement is not really resource friendly for video games. Right? Let me backtrack a little bit to how I started doing these textures in the first place. Where are we? References. Right, so in my references, I have, so since it's based off of 1930s Barbados, I have a lot of the model references, so just images that other people in our company help us to gather and whatnot. Door references. The reason why most of today's references is still usable is that a lot of the buildings in the main city, Bridgetown, are still how they were a few hundred years ago. Well, not a few hundred years ago, a little while ago. Some of these buildings would have been the same in 1930, just updated. So here I have a specific model reference. If I go back, here we have the kind of mood you want for the place. So these could be references, but it could also be just a kind of mood board. So just throw a bunch of references on. You look at what you like. A lot of our artists' initial designs are here as well, just to get that feel for the game. Because when you, the only problem with doing concept art is because it's done so early. When you really get into the heat of creating stuff, sometimes you could just default and you forget what you were doing in the first place. So it was really helpful to come back to this. Even these older ones, these especially. Right? And then I have the textures themselves, which are just one-off textures that I've been looking for online. Most of these, I believe all of these textures are free. But I'm not using these textures itself. I use a combination of them, literally blending them over each other, drawing some of my own lines, and we use that. Granted, it is a placeholder until we get the real art in, but I'm trying to mimic it as best as I can until such time. So what we're going to be working on today is creating the doors. So we have a lot of different types of doors that will be used. We have this door with the arch. We have doors like this that don't have the arch. So we're looking at especially what can be reused, at least in the beginning stage. The less work you have to do on these things, the better. So we're looking at just exactly how many doors we have, what kind of width we're looking at. Right, and I work on these in Clip Studio Paint. I save them out as Photoshop files so that they could be used properly. And here we go. Alright, so each one I create 1K map, 300 dpi, and the expression color I am leaving as gray. I hate when they have this ad because you can't mute it. Alright, done with that. Yeah, and I leave the basic expression color as gray. Reason being, the environment I'm doing, a lot of the buildings and whatnot are colorful, really colorful. But a lot of them are the same material, they're the same concrete, they're the same brick. So instead of making different colors for that, I make it grayscale here. And then I will adjust colors with vertex colors when we get inside of Maya. Alright, so we are going to bring this first one here. Yes. Yes, I believe we can do that. Yeah, I'm bringing this one in here. Alright. Now it's easier to just adjust the size here and then copy paste it. So we want the width to be 1080. Alright. Obviously, a lot of these images are going to be blurry and unusable as is, but we're just using them as a base. I'm not a person that works well with creating textures from scratch. I prefer to start off on a base and then improve on it. It saves time as well, because instead of trying to act like I'm some, big shot texture creator, I just let go of my ego and just copy over something pre-existing. Saves time, looks better. What are we looking for? We're looking for Discord. Oh, when I move to a place that doesn't have as many dogs, y'all are gonna be shocked. You're gonna be like, where's the dogs? They're not here anymore. But I won't be moving out for at least another year. I need to save for a car first. Alright. So I want to layer this over with a wooden texture that is a little more high-res. So I'm going to save the time and bring in the wooden texture I've already done. Make sure I save this first. 401. And gotta make sure the expression is in gray. It's easier to just change the expression because one, I believe the file is smaller. One is just grayscale, I think it's just 8-bit. And two, you don't accidentally paint in color. Alright, so we're gonna bring this in. And we're gonna use this to start tiling. I'm wondering if to put it on a hard light, soft light. I like the hard light. I have to expand this a bit. Alright. Duplicate that, bring it up, duplicate it again. Right, I'm going to combine all of these. Perhaps we should set them all to normal first. Normal, combine, then we set it to hard light. And then I'm going to duplicate that with horizontal. Right, and we have our door. Oh, we have our door texture. Already this is a lot faster than reinventing the wheel, so to speak. So now that I have that down, I'm going to go on the next layer. and I'm going to start drawing in some light. I think first I need to delete some stuff there. So this is our base. Now I'm wondering if I wanted to have a background or not, because I have to account for the side of the door as well. Technically, yes. Not really. If I extrude and I keep if I keep UV preserve UVs on, that might work. Alright. So we'll just do the one door and then test that out. Make sure that works. Then we can do it for others. And I would call that a rule of thumb. Whenever you're doing something, especially if it's new, try the first one first. Like take that first one to completion, and then go to the next. You might think you're saving time by doing all first and then doing all inside of Maya or your 3D model package. But if there's one hiccup, just one, it renders all of your work useless. You end up having to start over, throw everything out. Or it has to be so heavily modified that it may as well be thrown out. So working on just the one may take a little longer, but it's worth it. Okay. I'm going to leave this. No. I will bring in the canvas size because this does not have to be 10K. Because the material atlas that I'm putting it in is going to be 2K. So the size here is of little consequence. Ready? We're going to mask this. You do this again, right? Mask that, and then we're going to draw over this. Bring on this color a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Alright, for this, I purchased the ink set from Frendon. They have brushes for Clip Studio Paint and for Manga Studio 4. I've gotten some from my friend from Manga Studio 4, but they weren't compatible. So I figured I'd just buy them. I think they're on sale. But yeah, they give you a bunch of different texture stuff. The one that I purchased was the Inkers texture set. It gives you a lot of nice line art tools, and the one that I liked the most was the Inka Hairpin Organic Sable, because it gives you a really, well, you can't see it from here, but when I'm working on higher resolution, it gives me a really nice corner, and it tapers really nice as well. I'm trying to make this workflow as non-destructive as possible, because this will have to be handed over to our artist when the time comes. So whatever layers I have, keep them as layers. And this process is also a little tedious sometimes depending on your skill level with environments. Mine being very novice, I draw more characters. A lot better than that. Environments is just something very foreign to me, something I've been actively avoiding for so long. And well, I can't avoid it now. Ironically, my work in 3D has improved my work in 2D as well. And no matter what anybody says, working in a 3D program and then bring it over in 2D is not a cop out because there's certain things that you learn. There are things that you learn that you end up applying to your own drawing, even when you're not using a 3D base. There's so much that you learn from just flat out copying things that people either don't recognize or they don't want to acknowledge. It is an incredible teaching tool. I just started off when I was drawing, I just copying. Copied Tom and Jerry, I copied Fiverr. Eventually you make your own stuff. As long as you don't copy and sell it. Well, let's see. Oh, personal opinion, I suppose. I've seen people get away with that. And granted, nothing is original. It's just it is the expression of it that makes it unique. So you can see with all this layering, putting in the line art is a lot easier. If I were to just start off like this, or even just like that, it's not horrible, but this is a lot better. And if you want to change your levels, you could always put on adjustment layer, a levels adjustment layer. Those are really good for that. Just want to get rid of this below there. Is this supposed to be like a doorbell or something? It's there for a reason. I think I'll just put it on. Now, the good thing about modular kit building is that when you create that, everything else is instanced. It's copied, but it's not really registered as its own mesh. You can't edit it individually without editing all of the other instances. And that saves a lot of memory on your system. So you can afford to have a modular piece that is a little more resource heavy, spend a few more polygons to get shape that you want, and then just instance it. It will make up for the amount of polygons that we used in the original. As long as you don't have too many incidental pieces. You don't want too much variation in one kit. The purpose of the kit is for variation, so you don't want to hard code variation into it. If you're wondering when I will stop talking, the answer is never. So for this wall, for this wall, for this example, I will add in a few subdivisions so I could kind of probably pull out these areas on top here, and this doorbell area as well, and maybe like make some ridges in wood. That's what they do when you're doing a kind of low quality design and you're not going to be using any normals. The combination of adjusting your mesh to fit the texture as well as a good ambient occlusion map, because you can also bake ambient occlusion onto your vertices, which is almost resource free. It doesn't eat up your resources at all. So that's another option. Right, I assume this is some kind of animal on the doorbell. It usually is. Let me look back. Barbados door. What am I looking at? It's a sign, isn't it? Yeah, it is a sign. But you can put a thing on it, which would be interesting. What I'm thinking of is this. This has those, the knocking thingy. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be able to use it, but it would be a cool little addition. Yeah, that is definitely a sign. But I would like to put on. What should I? I could put that on as a separate mesh. Yeah, I'll put it on as a separate mesh. Right, we're going to continue putting up our highlights and whatnot. Josh does this really cool thing, our artist, in his drawings, where he just has these really bold outlines. I've been trying to find some way to incorporate it into my art. I am a thief after all. Key. But it just really makes the whole thing pop. And especially at the angle we're looking at an isometric angle, and it's fairly far, this door will not be in your face, so to speak. So we need like certain things that pop out on it without being overbearing. Alright, this is our first door. Now, this will always be edited after the fact because what I'm doing here is when I export this, I bring it in as a linked file. Have to link back everything. Right. I bring it in as a linked file and set it up in the atlas, and then export from Illustrator to make the atlas. So if I were to change any of the textures here, it will come in here updated with the placement already set. But this is not the atlas we're looking for. I believe I have to transfer some things from my PC, from my laptop, sorry. See that. This. I need to make sure I pushed all the commits on GitHub with a little tick, so I assume yes, that has been done. Awesome. Alright, everything is syncing. And we're good. Aria left, mommy. She went out with a friend to pick up a friend. I don't know. I'm live streaming, mom. Alright, that embarrassing aside. I'm going to make another texture atlas. Making sure it's pixels and not points, because pixels and points sort of deviate from each other at, I don't know at what number. 2048. 2048. It's very important that your textures size is in the power of 2 because I can't remember the exact reason, but it's something to do with how the game engine processes these things. Right, everything's been synced over. I'm gonna go back to textures. No, this one. Bring it here. Little black. Right, so what I just really want to copy is the guide. Right, we have our guide, normal albedo, ambient occlusion, speculum. I should just call it diffuse, because that's what it is. Albedo implies the use of an alpha map underneath it, which would require me to make that a target file, which will make it a rather big file, and I would not like to do that. Diffuse. Normal. Ambient occlusion. So in the end, I never truly understood the power of an ambient occlusion map. It could give your mesh depth that, like additional depth. It's like another normal map, but it doesn't cost as much. Your ambient occlusion can also be double as your height map. Works pretty well with that as well. Height, as we understand it, is a different thing in Unity. I'm not sure if it's like that in Unreal, but in Unity it's more like a parallax height. So um, it shifts the pixels of the texture either left or right imply imply height, but no real height or displacement is taking place. Material names. I need to save because at some point my PC is gonna reset for itself and I haven't figured out yet. I haven't figured out why yet. Anyway, I got distracted by Twitter. Here we have our material names. And we need a tiling test. Now the guide is here just so if I want to make sure I use up all of the space that I can, but I don't need to follow it. So we're gonna go to textures here. Did I save all the door? JPEG. The reason I'm saving it as a JPEG and not a PNG is that a PNG takes up more space and it provides a higher quality, yes, but not a quality that I'm going to need. Bring this in here. Size it up. And keep it in the corner there. I'm going to use this atlas for all of the doors and windows. Doors, windows, perhaps roofing, the iron sheet roofing. Yeah, anything that isn't specifically texture like that. The reason I haven't done a glass texture specifically on this one, though I'm sure I'm missing something. I'll remember it soon enough. But yeah. I mean, I guess it's good to leave space. If you need anything else, just put it in. But yeah, all of this is primary materials for the floor, housing, general stuff like that. Grass, rope, galvanized, dude. Here is more of the detailed ones. So just to show you guys, I'm gonna use the normal map generator for this door to show you an idea of what I do for this. So I'm gonna bring in this door. Automatically it puts in displacement. You don't want that displacement. Right? Go into the normal. I prefer not to have all of this detail because it kind of is blinding. You can barely see anything. It just takes away. So you don't really want to have the green areas, even though each color represents what direction that pixel is going to face. What direction its normal is going to face. That's why it's called a normal map. The normal is basically how that plane reflects, how that particular pixel reflects, and how it will receive light. So, for example, it's telling, let me stop rotating this thing, right. It's telling certain pixels to receive light from this direction, from the x-axis, some to receive light from the front, some to receive light from the other direction. And that combination of that creates this line known as a normal map, which gives it a lot more detail. I should probably load the diffuse. You just have an idea of what's going on. Now, how it shows up here is not how it may show up in Unity. I'm saying that because ambient occlusion seems to be tackled differently in there. I'm not sure if it's just I haven't been doing something right. The specular we're going to want to bring down. Bring down the range because it's going to have some specular. They don't want it to be too much. Just a nice little shine. I think you use ambient occlusion as your gloss map as well. If it's ambient occlusion, then your roughness map. But if it's a gloss map, then your specular could work as well. And I believe Unity works on a specular gloss. Yes. No, specular roughness. Unity is weird. It's usually metallic rough or specular gloss, but I think Unity does specular gloss. Specular rough. Whatever. Right. Look at our ambient occlusion. I like to have the ambient occlusion a little more defined. Right. There we go. You'll see without it, it just kind of adds something to it, you know? Right, no, I'll be including the specular. Might as well download this. No sense in doing over that work twice. Right, so 4, 0, 1, 0. 0, 1, specular. We don't need the displacement. 4, 0, 1, normal. Please ignore images of my strange dog. Bring it back into textures. Paste here, and now we are going to bring it into Illustrator. Right, so you have ambient occlusion, normal, specular. 1, 2, 3. Right, we're going to bring this here. Normal goes into the normal layer. Ambient occlusion layer. Now we're going to select all of these and just bring them down so that they match over perfectly. So specular, ambient occlusion, normal, diffuse. So I can export this as is. Oh, one other thing. You need to make sure your background isn't just white. It's something that is fairly similar to everything you've been doing. Reason being is for tiling, any little pixel that gets caught on the side of your polygon, on the side of your plane or whatever you're using, will be shown and is going to highlight the tiling. So it's better to just have something on the outside. Perhaps I'll make it this color. Because that was the problem I was running into. I had a plain black background for everything. And I couldn't understand why this thing kept showing as if it was tiling because I knew it was tiling properly, seamlessly in Photoshop. Specular ambient occlusion, normal. For the ambient occlusion, I think I'll just have a black background. Obviously, the joy in this is that they're all on one texture, so when you update one, all are updated. You could update many at the same time. And for organization wise, when it's just one texture, it's a lot easier to keep track of. You don't have to think, oh, DAW01, specular, normal, ding, everything is in that folder, and it's in this other folder. Especially for the level we're doing, and all of the other things are going into it, like the mechanics, scripting, and whatnot. The less you have to look for textures and materials, the better. At least I think so. They will be using a special shader that is going to allow for what was I saying? That is going to allow for texture blending. Words are not my friend today. It's going to allow for texture blending, which is going to let me create, for example, a floor with some cracked areas and some regular areas of concrete without it looking tiled. Because we want to use the tiling because it will save resources, but we don't want it to look like it's tiled. So we want the cake and we want to eat it too. Ambient occlusion and the specular. Oops. Right. Now let's start naming these things because you do not want to lose track of your materials. Reason being, some of them are using the same diffuse but a different normal map because they have the same values of color, but they are rendered differently. And the less work you could do, the better. I encourage laziness once it is not ridiculous. So do your work now so you could not do your work later. Wise words from Daniel. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and export all these because I want to start testing this in Maya. Actually, no. I need to do a few more doors first. Well, I mean, time is up anyway, so I may stream this during the week, but on Twitch. So thanks for joining. You've seen the process. Go out and do your own stuff, and I'll see you next week or maybe during the week.